There's a sponsorship form there that you can see. And if you feel like you want to contribute to the overall conference so that we can do this next year. Now, mind you, tonight we will be soliciting for Wyle College. But if you caught the vision and you want to make sure that we can carry this on, then you would be donating directly to Tawa Ministries. And so we will put that information in the chat, but right now I will do that at the end. And we're glad that Dr. Mcpherson is going to be here. So as soon as Mrs. Rowena Dennard'S recital is over, Dr. Mcpherson is coming live from Wyle College with a choral historical presentation for us tonight. And so we are so glad that he made his way in here kind of early so we can make sure we had him. I'm just so happy about that. Now, I don't have with me a bio for Rowena Dennard, but I'm going to ask Dr. Karen Thomas if you can give us a little bit of her background, if you know it at this time, because somehow the bio didn't come through.
Well, I do know, I remember from her meeting with us that she is an alumna of Talladega College, I believe.
Yes.
And she studied apparently music education and organ and piano. Okay. And I know that right now she is organist at the Atlanta First United Methodist Church. Okay. And I believe she has worked in the Atlanta public school system as a music educator. Is that correct?
I'm leaning on you because the bio did not come through. I think she sent one, but we have not been able to locate it. We've gotten so many emails and doing it. So I
don't have her bio either. Okay, but I do know that about her. I know she's a member of our organization as well as NAM. Very and good. I'm sure she's been involved with the I guess Georgia Music Educators Association, I would think.
Very good. Very good.
Portia, do you know any of her?
No, I'm afraid I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, that's about what I know.
Well, she is at Carnegie Hall right now, supporting her daughter who's in a performance up there. And that's why she did not come in live. She was planning to come in live, but then that performance for her daughter at Carnegie Hall, where we just left, was in conflict with her being able to be here tonight. And so without further ado, we're going to present to you Mrs. Rowena Dennard in a recorded organ recital. Okay, Mika.
River.
You're muted, Cynthia.
Let's give Sister Rowena Dennard an excellent hand for that wonderful concert, the recital she just did. And you know, one of our primary concerns is about the preservation of the pipe organ for those of you who are just signing in today. And so she, as I said before, she was not able to come yesterday for the major organ recital that was held at Friendship. And so she asked to be able to do that today. And so we thank you now. What we're going to do, because we have a few minutes before Dr. Mcpherson is due to do his concert. For those of you, we are dedicating this day to Dr. Melva Costin, who Reverend Richard Clemens had all of her materials, lots of her stuff in his presentation. If you missed him this morning at 9, you missed a blessing. If you missed the composer forum at 12 to 2, you missed a blessing. If you missed the video of the Legend celebration in 2018, you missed a blessing. Everything has just been quality, and I am just bubbling over with the quality of the presentations that we have had so far. And so God is in this. You know, good things come from small beginnings. And so I don't feel bad at all. We had some technological problems and we just need to learn how to do this kind of thing. And so, but we're just thanking God for those of you who are here right now. And so we are going to repeat our dedicatory video of Dr. Costin in these few minutes that we have before Dr. Mcpherson comes on. And I want you all to just pray for her, because when Reverend Clemens was speaking this morning and all of the stuff that he used of hers, I was almost in tears because she is so much of who I am. And if you had heard the medley that Rita Hardin played in honor of Dr. Costin at the Legend celebration in 2018, you would also been in tears, because that girl is a master. And so I thank Rita for introducing us to Dr. McClendon. And I'm gonna call you doctor because you are a doctor, Dr. Clemens. And I'm sorry, I think you signed off today before you heard Rita's presentation to Dr. Melva Costin, but it was glorious. It really was. And so somehow, some way, now what we are going to do is we've recorded all of these presentations, and we are going to discuss with the TAMS group, because a lot of the stuff that we've done is TAMS material. And so since I'm a member of both groups, I don't want to do anything without their permission, but we want to upload this, and we may put a donation link next to the viewing of it, like some people have, because but you have to appreciate it. You know, a lot of people won't click on to it because they don't know what's in. So, you know, there's a pro and con to charging for stuff. And so we'll have a discussion in our meeting about how we want to do the upload, because we can upload, now that my daughter has done this and recorded it, we can upload it to YouTube. We can upload it to my webpage and the TAMS webpage. Now the TAMS webpage, when I looked at it, it needs a little work. And so we're going to try to see if we can get that up to par. And I want you to give my daughter a hand. She has been working nonstop. The technician that's been on duty to keep this going, trying to handle the glitches and get people in who cannot get in. And so I just want you to give her a hand. She has really been top notch in helping me today. So Amelia. Yes, show your face, my love, so they can see who they're clapping for. Okay, all right. So let us show a little bit of Dr. Costin's video. This is who we're dedicating probably the whole week, but I have some dedications that I'm going to do later on this week. We're going to show her again for those of you who did not see her this morning. Okay, go ahead, Amelia. Can't hear it.
Our wedding, which would be on Baccalaureate Sunday at Johnson C. Smith University. Who would know that as soon as we were married and had our first child and moved to Rocky Mount, North Carolina, that we would be thrust immediately into racism. The year was 1955, not too long ago. Yet Martin King was already active. And when we were in Charlotte, we were with the civil rights, the sit-ins, where at the college level, we would sit in restaurants. They would not serve us, but we didn't walk out sometimes until the end of the day. And the people at Walmart, Walgreens, or wherever we would try to eat, said, well, they would laugh when we left, because in the middle of that, we would burst into speaking Latin. Most of us were in the choir, and we were singing a lot of songs in Latin, and we would just use that language, and they would come by and look at us and say, you know, they're not even Americans, you know, oh, doing all that. Adoramus te Christe, what is that? But a lot happened. Jim found himself leading the civil rights movement in that area with ministers who knew Martin personally. And we would sneak Martin Luther King into town to lead demonstrations. And here's when we really could have gotten killed. And I will not prolong this, but it's in my heart right now as I know I have to go talk to Christine, his sister, pretty soon. During that time, the undertaker, the African American undertaker, would take his fleet of cars to Raleigh, assuming to pick up a body. Nobody would pay them any attention. They would sneak Martin Luther King into one of those cars, and with this huge delegation looking like a funeral, we would drive into Rocky Mount. I never knew where Martin stayed. All I knew was the importance of music, because by that time we had, for the 4 or 5 years, we had a city choir, and I was the accompanist for it. And this was going to be our first time bringing Martin Luther King into an arena heavily guarded by blacks who learned to handle guns all of a sudden because the police would not get involved. And Jim said to me, all right, I can't tell you where Martin is. I can't even tell you when he's going to arrive, but I won't be up front. You know, we've got it so that he's carefully guarded, and we want you to start inflammatus at the point that we're walking in. And so I said, we're going to do it in English or Latin? He says, do the Latin. Won't nobody know what you're singing about anyway. So, I said, how will I know that Martin is there? He said, I'll say something. Tell the guy to say something about blackberry pie. And when the message, and we'd been singing, I guess we'd been an hour just singing, and the people were gathering, and we were all scared. And by that time, a gentleman walked up and he said, your husband said he wants blackberry pie tonight. That meant Martin was on the way in. So I got word to the director, and we started Inflammatus. And with all the beautiful music from this huge choir, and the delegation of gentlemen, they could not see that Martin was in the middle of the delegation. We got Martin so that he was on the platform. And he gave one of his speeches and thanked Rocky Mount for being one of the far eastern cities to take seriously the civil rights movement. And so into that with everybody standing, I mean, I was crying. And all I knew was when I got to the home of the undertaker, there was Martin. And I have that picture on my wall, incidentally. You may want to come by my house. Martin was sitting with us, having dinner and teasing me because his wife, of course, Coretta, was a singer, and he says, Coretta probably wants to hear from me. She would like to come and give a concert. So that was one of the high moments. There are many more because we even forced two of our children into a school. It was the first integration of an elementary school on the east coast of North Carolina. And the test case was Craig Costin, the gentleman you just met, the knee baby, as I said. He was a knee baby then, versus the city of Rocky Mount to get him into this white school. And we had a lawyer who had done so much of this. He simply said to us, let me see the young man at least an hour before. Craig was 6 years old. I was 7. He was 6. And my husband looked at him and says, this is a tough character, so can I get in there about an hour and a half? Because the thing we want you to do is to just tell him not to talk. You do the talking. Because if the judge asks him anything, he will say, I don't want to do this. I want to go to my black school. So Craig won the case that day. And that opened elementary schools in eastern North Carolina. So long story, but it's my story, my civil rights story for the day, because it involved the children. It's one of our peak moments. Then we moved to Atlanta, and I never knew when Dr. King would be either at our house or the house we were visiting.
Okay, Dr. Mcpherson, how are you? We're a little bit early. Is that a problem for you?
Good evening.
I said we're a little early. Is that a problem for you?
Not a problem at all. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm blessed.
I'm going to make you co-host. Do you have any sharing that you're going to be doing?
Most certainly.
Okay, I will make you co-host for this section. You actually have share capability, but I'll go a little bit further so that you can do whatever you need to do. Okay, hold on just a second. Okay. Allow to spotlight. Add spotlight. And that's the first thing. And let's see. What else do we want to do? Make co-host. Okay. There you go. All right. You got it.
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to just say, first of all, what a privilege it is to share in this space with all of you. I recognize that we have just a wonderful and a plethora of legacy in this moment, in being able to abide in this space, the Academy of Worship Arts, because we have an obligation not only to preserve the foundation of our culture, but to always find a way not to necessarily reinvent what is going on, but to repurpose it so that it is relevant to what we do now without compromising the integrity of the work itself. Thank you, Reverend Dr. Rivers and the entire Atlanta African American Music Society for being a shepherd for all of these materials that we are abiding by. In particular, those things that matter not only to the entire concourse that we find ourselves on for the purpose found in many of our African American composers, but for the preservation itself of the work, no matter how it's interpreted. We realize that we're in a time where societal pressures are trying to push us in a place where we forget about where we came from. I always laugh at a lot of what the joke that I show at my students all the time, and that is whenever we find the works of Black composers, many of them will immediately say, we don't want to do all the white folks' music. And knowing that that is the case, it also puts us in a very critical dynamic. It positions us, gives us a certain posture that we have to do everything we can to see to it that the young people are very much acutely aware of the responsibility of legacy. We are one of the very few races of people on this planet that have a tendency to discard what God has given to us as far as our heritage, the things that we're entrusted to invent and develop, and then we cast them to the side, and oftentimes others will take them and literally recycle them, almost to the point where we are not even in a place where we recognize us in the mix, and then they will go on to make millions from what we are doing. So my program this evening, I have always felt very humbled when I've had the privilege of being able to serve in an HBCU, regardless of whether I was conducting an instrumental group or a choral group or a combination thereof, or creating some type of chamber music. For those of you who know a little about my journey, you also know that I served in Atlanta University Center for a while, then Morris Brown College, prior to going to Stillman, and then returned to Atlanta to engage in part of my research over at Emory University with the School of Medicine, which had nothing to do directly with the African-American experience relative to the things that we do. However, I am so humbled that in this moment we are able to share just a couple of pieces that I feel are important, that will probably take us right about an hour through limited commentary on what we do. So before we go any further, it is always customary that for our programs here at Wyle College, we share in the presentation of the Negro National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. When I got here, they had abandoned the employment of the, or the presentation of the version as arranged and developed by Dr. Roland Carter. I tell everyone that the HBCU standard and margin is that particular version, because it speaks to all of the things that give us the opportunity to share in that dynamic where we have the glory of the anthem, we have the chorale of the Negro spiritual, as well as all of the complex harmonies and complex rhythms that we find. So I've been serving, this is my third year now, is serving as the lead co-chair or chair of the HBCU 105, which is the conductors forum for all 105 HBCUs in their choral programs. And we've had several opportunities in the past to present the Roland Carter piece, but because of COVID-19, we were very blessed to share in the development of a Zoom presentation that we were able to record and mix and master as such. So I want to start our program with that, and then we'll continue from there. If you'll, let me see here. So I can share it, Dr. Rivers? Yes, I can, I see. All right, here we go. The music will be loud because I'm doing a television broadcast right now. Great. Thank you for listening. The process for us being in that place where we were able to share in that recording provided us an opportunity to utilize students from 91 HBCUs out of 105. Of course, COVID-19 had shut down some of those programs. And for that reason, it put us in a place where we had some other challenges. I'm going to need some assistance in navigating. So if there are questions and things like that, or if we can have some technical assistance, so if someone needs to get into the Zoom presentation, if Dr. Rivers, if your daughter could go ahead and manage that for me, I would appreciate it. All right, so having done that, one of the things that coming to Wiley College was a real challenge because I was in a place where I did not recognize that I was coming to start a choral program all over again. My predecessor, a very brilliant gentleman, Dr. Stephen Hayes, decided that he would return to Philander Smith College. And for those of you who remember, it's part of the legacy of Philander Smith College. They were have been one of many HBCUs that were selected to sing at the White House. In particular, this time, Dr. Hayes conducted all of the music presentations at the White House during the first swearing in of President Bill Clinton back in 1993. Very much like many of our other programs, we have a tendency to, as Black choral conductors, sometimes we move around. So prior to Dr. Hayes' tenure here, he's been at Tuskegee for about almost 7 or 8 years. And his tenure here, I think, was one of the longest, where he'd served Wiley College for almost 14 years. So I started a choral program all over again. Many of the students have a tendency to become attached, and I mean emotionally attached, artistically attached, all those things, just as Dr. Rivers had talked about giving birth to so many wonderful young people in ministry and music and the arts, and Dr. Costin's presentation about how the focus of our music had a way of really beginning to permeate the minds and the hearts of individuals who oftentimes did not necessarily understand what we did. I had to chuckle when Dr. Costin talked about the infusion of Latin. I've had to cast the argument that Latin is a part of our Negroology, and our African heritage is part of the global African cultural diaspora. It was the dark-skinned people who spoke Latin and Greek and Hebrew prior to our light-skinned and white counterparts sharing in that. When I was being brought up, my introduction to Latin started out with people teaching me how to speak just a little pig Latin. And so I am forever endeared to that exposure, because it also given me an opportunity to really have an impact on how we interpret our arts. And having said that, I prepared about 6 or 7 pieces, starting with part of the foundation of our music, our Negro spirituals. And I wanted to start with, and I have to load this up if you'll give me just a moment. For whatever reason, it popped out. But I would like to start with a piece that was originally arranged, had been arranged by several people, but the arrangement that has seemingly stuck for the most part has been the Jester Harrison version of I've Been Buked, I've Been Scorned. And many of you know Jester Harrison from so many wonderful pieces over the years, but you also remember him from his multiple television appearances on Amen with Sherman Hemsley. Sherman Hemsley believed in the Black experience, in particular, with the dedication and engagement of our Negro spirituals just across the board. So we're going to start with that particular piece. And as we go through, we'll share in a couple of the pieces right after that. I believe it's most appropriate. Our brother who served among us for years in Atlanta University Center, Wendell Philip Whalen, giving us numerous arrangements of things that we were able to share in. Certainly, I want to share his version of Lily of the Valley. While this is loading, I want to say thank you again for this privilege of being able to share in this wonderful space. And here we go. I've been mute.
My name
So thank you for allowing us to share in that moment. We're going to go right on to Lily of the Valley. So great. I'd like to take this moment to possibly entertain a question or two, or Dr. Rivers, should I go on?
I just have a question about your interpretation. It's very interesting. And I just wanted to know what drives the way you deliver that song, those two songs.
Well, when I was coming along as a boy, I would always sit behind persons who would do some of the Negro spirituals, and they would do things like "I Know I've Been Changed" and "Soon I Will Be Done." Actually, as a matter of fact, I did an arrangement of "Soon I Will Be Done" on my senior recital as a percussion and piano major at Alabama State University. And so I have always been driven, having gotten a chance to meet people like Hall Johnson and Justa Harrison, and I was privileged to meet my frat brother, William Grant Steele, before he passed. And they talked about the beauty of olive bread, why in some instances you have to also work hard to sometimes try and find the beauty within the rhythm that's hidden in the rhythm. Because I have spent a lot of my time as well as an improvisatory individual who can take a theme and improvise on it. In my pedagogy and teaching group vocals, I have always been drawn to getting young people to learn how to begin to live outside of the notes that are there and begin to interpret the notes. Sometimes with a young group like what I have here, it is difficult because we end up with sometimes missed passages or even sometimes situations that deal with notation or intonation. So for me, being able to give a fair assessment and interpretation of what's on the page and then not what is there. I think the dynamic in that is because of my years and years of orchestral conducting and having to interpret massive works, large orchestral scores where there are certain liberties provided to the conductor. After meeting Justa Harrison, I was working in Hollywood when I met Justa Harrison for the third time, and it began to click. And he would talk about ways to certainly preserve the foundation of what we were doing, but to always, and I think it was because of his relationship probably with him, Sherman Hemsley at the time, that we had to find a way to pull this music forward. And in many of my conversations with Dr. Jason Ferdinand, of course, who's now leaving Oakwood University after having been there for about 14 years, we talked about the impact of persons like yourself and Dr. Melva Costin and our beloved Dr. Joyce Johnson, where certainly we had to learn how to very quickly see beyond the notes. Prior to Dr. Winterfield Whalen's passing, we would have him come to Boston. I was a young professor at Berklee College of Music at the time, and probably had been there 3-4 years or so. And we would certainly work hard to engage him. We could not get the folk at Harvard to really kind of get in that dynamic. For those of y'all who remember, Dr. T.J. Anderson is still living, but T.J. was also at Tufts University. So we had this coalition of Black thought leaders and Black artistic individuals who felt like it was important for us to be able to share that interpretation. And so here I am now, 42 years in higher education, and I find myself doing the same thing. And I hope I haven't just talked in a whole circle, but that's where I have been able to gather some of my inspirations.
Yeah, I kind of sense, thank you for that explanation, because I've listened to different arrangements and different conductors who do different things with the music. And it's just always good to hear a different interpretation. And so yours is very unique.
Yeah. I kind of am in that lane where I know I'm the odd man out. So now I'd like to switch gears just for a second. Miss Kathy Gary has always been so gracious with so many of us. And in 2016, Morris Brown College and all of the struggles has decided they would continue to celebrate me and my work, where I was not able to do a lot in terms of impacting their curriculum and things like that. I've always shared a lot of my time, talent, and of course, my treasure. And I've received many of the awards that they provided celebrating artistic individuals. And Dr. Gloria Long Anderson, who, as many of you know, has been in the Atlanta University Center for 57, almost 60 years now, and a Callaway professor of chemistry, became a mother, more or less. Dr. Anderson's 92 now, 91. And so she became more or less a mother type figure to me when I came to Atlanta University Center. And I, very much like many of us, I'm 63 now. So like many of us, we have a tendency to revere those who we just look upon and marvel at, very much like we have celebrated Dr. Melva Costin and so many others who have had an impact on us. But Dr. Anderson literally held my hand. And when I lost both of my parents, my dad in 2008 after coming to Morris Brown as a faculty member, and then of course my mother in 2015. So I was privileged to receive an honorary doctoral degree, a Doctor of Music, as honoris causa, as opposed to just the doctoral laureate. And I felt very compelled to share in a moment where we would talk about the legacy of individuals. And I was driven and compelled and inspired to write a piece, a small chamber piece for a cello, piano, and voice. And I used one of my mentees. I have several young people that I've mentored and from overseas, and also placed in some of America's great symphony orchestras. And I have about 9 in Atlanta Symphony. And one of the young men is Roy Haran, who's an incredible cellist who appeared with us. And I wanted to share this piece with you and then return to the last 3 pieces of my choral presentation. This is The Lilies of the Field Tell a Song. It's really what it says. For those of you who grew up in the country, sometimes you know that at a certain point of the year where the grass grows high, it also turns into weeds and stems and rods. And when the evening wind blows, a gentle breeze, those rods have a tendency to sing a song. A lot of times those rods are also attached to beautiful flowers like lilies. And if you're paying attention, and the Bible tells us that from time to time we will hear those things that go about. So I wanted to share this particular piece with you so that we could celebrate this particular moment. And so I'm going to share this, The Lilies Tell a Song. And if I can get it to mount, it's moving. There we go. And this, of course, myself on piano, Professor Roy Haran, who's over at Emory, as a cellist at Emory, and also Agnes Scott College. And of course, our beautiful, beloved Miss Kathy Gary. All right. I thought I saw Miss Kathy Gary on here. Is she here? Hello? Can you hear me? All right. So I'm going to now turn the corner and make this transition. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to make this transition. I, as a young man conducting in Boston, our biggest challenge, and I spent a lot of time, for those of you who know a little bit about my journey, I spent about 20 years teaching at a place called Berklee College of Music, and I ran the film scoring program. So I'm writing for television and film, in particular, a lot of the Disney stuff and all those things. We are driven to improvisation, but I felt like because of my roots in the African American experience, we always had to find ways to continually tell our story, especially through Black core music. That was one of the main reasons why we brought Dr. Wendell Philip Whalen there quite often. And of course, Professor Hubert Walters, who just turned 90 and retired from University of Massachusetts, was the founder of the Kumba Singers at Harvard. We would engage Dr. Roland Carter quite often because he was the young contemporary at the time. As you might imagine, in the late 80s and early 90s, all through the 90s, and even for the 4 or 5 years I'd given them as part of my sabbatical from Berkeley back and forth in the early 2000s. But I, as you would imagine, began to try and find some creative ways to interpret a lot of the music. So I latched onto his arrangement of Precious Lord, Take My Hand, because of the jazz influences that were a part of his arranging for that particular piece. I spent a lot of time working in what we would refer to as chromaticism, chromatic improvisation. One of my teachers at New England Conservatory was a brilliant gentleman named Dr. George Russell. And I basically embraced his entire pedagogy and materials called the Lydium Chromatic Concept for Tonal Organization, which taught us a whole different way of improvisation through chromaticism based on the Dorian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Phrygian, and Hyperphrygian modes. And I teach that a lot now when you find a student who has that acumen to be able to not only understand that, but to be able to apply it. That's one thing to understand, but to be able to apply. And so we would bring these brothers in, you know, and Roland Carter was one of them. And so I have held fast to this particular arrangement he's done of Precious Lord. We had another Carter, Dr. Nathan Carter, who also had a wonderful arrangement, and we would basically volley between the two arrangements. As I began to realize that so many things in terms of today's experience as far as media is concerned have a tendency to move very fast. So our young people's attention, a lot of times, even those of us who are a little older, sometimes our attention is very limited unless we have multiple things going on at the same time. When people tell you that your mind can't multitask and you're told to multitask, you know the line. We are now citizens of a media-driven society. So I felt very compelled to turn some of these Negro spirituals into music videos, very much like Michael Jackson had Beat It and Billie Jean. And I worked on his Man in the Mirror with Pastor Crouch, and then we did something later called Will You Be There? I felt like these Negro spirituals needed to have a similar place. So I got a chance to put my hand to it some years ago, but again, most recently with the a cappella choir here at Wyle College. And again, it gives me an opportunity to interpret this as an olive breath piece, but we were able to mix mediums. So I invited dance into this, as well as just some artistic freedom in terms of the melody itself, featuring a solo. So this is Precious Lord with the a cappella choir from Wyle College. And I think you'll really enjoy this. I would hope so anyway. Lord, send my mind, guide my feet to All right, great. So that put me in a place where I began to really understand the ability of our young people. Oftentimes we would share this dynamic that our young people are not in that place where, because of the so many of the things that are coming at them as far as the music itself is concerned, what they hear and what they are influenced by on radio. And if you listen to some of the hip hop, it is extremely vulgar, very distasteful. A lot of it is sexually and misogynistically driven. And so we have to find ways to continue to combat that. My dad used to always say, as a minister, we don't have to help God do his work, but we have to do what God has called us to do. And for that reason, I just felt so compelled to understand what that dynamic was. And having the parent now, many of you remember my daughter Giselle when I had her with me when we were in Atlanta 13, 14, 15. Giselle is now 19, and kind of understanding some of the challenges that she has and things she has to deal with. We have to figure out a way to do it. I'm going to share two more pieces with you. This next piece is from our recent commencement exercise. Stacy Gibbs, Dr. Stacy Gibbs, is a friend and a wonderful brother to many of us. And I, with him as well as Dr. Robert Morris, find ways to really try, as one of my contemporaries. I realized that Dr. Morris is closer to Dr. Roland Carter's age, but Stacy is a little younger than I am. And in dealing with a lot of his materials, he's found a way, very much like Moses Hogan did, to find the notes and the sounds and the colors within this music that we so graciously ask God to give us as a means of the continuation of this music. While I certainly love the music of Paul Johnson and Chester Harrison and so many others, I am also driven by many of the really wonderful young composers. One of my former students, Dr. Rosephine Dunn Powell, is one such individual as well. We are going to share in this moment, mind you, and I give this disclaimer, for our commencement exercise. It was 8 in the morning. It rained on much of the night. And so as a result of that, we ended up with a lot of young people kind of wet and hoarse and stuff like that, but God blessed us to get through it. This is a beautiful piece that Dr. Stacy Gibbs did called Be Still and Know. Dr. Horace Carney and I, from time to time, will conduct this particular piece in mass, where we will combine some of the HBCU chorales, in particular the HBCU 105, and then of course our own choral programs have done it. Ironically, one of the a cappella choir members from 1943, I think, was living. 42, because we recognized the 10s and the 20s and the 50s and stuff like that. So in 42, one of those individuals was there to receive, I can't remember what the number is for that diploma. I'm very privileged to conduct here at Wiley College. Our choral program is 131 years old this year. And in our coming academic year, we will celebrate our sesquicentennial of 150 years. Be still and know that I am God.
Be still. Still, I know that I am God.
All righty. Before I go on to my last piece, I would like to maybe entertain a question or two. We're going to do something a little contemporary. Ain't no stopping us now, but I'd like to at least entertain a question or two.
Unfortunately, we were not able to hear that last selection very well. I know that Zoom is not the perfect place for doing this, and so for me, it was breaking up quite a bit. So I really couldn't get the total essence. And so one of the things that we're going to have, Dr. McPherson, if you're not busy, a Wednesday afternoon is a tech talk to talk about how we can improve upon performing and transmitting via Zoom.
Sure.
Yeah, because I really could not, it was breaking up, and some of them, for them, a lot of them, it was that, but I could hear the others a lot clearer than I could this last one.
Okay.
So yeah, we are really looking at trying to figure out how we can, improve upon, sending music across
Sure.
the airwaves. Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, ma'am.
Who was the composer of that piece, Be Still and Know That I Am God? I didn't catch the composer.
Dr. Stacy Gibbs. And for years he was at Kentucky State. And then he was at the, I think UNC Greensboro or someplace like that.
How do you spell the last name?
Gibbs, G.
Oh, good. Okay, got it. Okay,
DBS,
thank you. Okay, thank you.
So, Sister Green, you could hear it very well. Who was that commenting on that?
This is Babette Harrell. We met yesterday.
Okay, did you? So you could hear it very well.
No, I couldn't, but I like that scripture, so I just wanted to be able to listen to it by myself.
I got you.
So what I would do in lieu of this as well is cast a YouTube of these particular pieces that I presented. And then I would share the link for the YouTube comprised of all these pieces with Reverend Dr. Rivers, and she can share it among us. And we can also, Dr. Rivers, put it on both the TAWA as well as TAM's websites, if that's okay.
That's great. That would be great. And did you see, I know you got one more selection you're going to do, but did you see my text asking you to put your donations information? Because I didn't receive that from you, how we can donate to Wyle, and how would you like if people choose to do that? We just
Sure.
record it, yes.
Sure. So what we
type it in the text if you want. If you just go on with your music and type it in the text so everybody can see it.
It won't allow me. I'll have to type it in the chat now.
I mean, that's what I mean, the chat. I'm sorry,
Sure.
I'm using the wrong term. Yeah.
When I got here, I realized that there was no mechanism. There had not been a mechanism established specifically for the roots of our music and African American musical experience. While they've had a lot of donors over the years, there was nothing that was put in place. So in 2020, we lost Dr. Truby Clayton, who was the first person to pass on from COVID-19 in this area. And he actually died on April the 1st. And a lot of people thought it was an April Fool's joke, but it was very true. Dr. Clayton had served Wyle College as a music professor and principal organist for 43 years. And then the person who began to shape what we now know the modern chorale, large chorale sound was Professor Earl LaRue, who had come here as a student and returned and served the faculty for 30 years. And so we decided to create a memorial fund that would allow us to support the activities that surrounded certainly the a cappella choir, but anything relative to music and the arts. And I'm going to put that in now. Our folk and institutional advancement felt like, because I was the founder and principal contributor to get the thing started, that I also attached my name. So this is what it is, Clayton LaRue Mcpherson Memorial Fund. And just remember, when you spell Wiley College, it's I-L-E-Y. Sometimes people will spell it, using they switch the Y and the L, but it's pretty much the same, all right? Okay, so for my last piece, this is a little up-tempo. I was very privileged to, in my years of contemporary and commercial music, I spent a lot of time working with Quincy Jones. I started working with Q, with Quincy on The Color Purple as an orchestrator when I was just before my 25th birthday. Had been out on the road with Mr. Lionel Hampton. We had gone to Japan, and I had accepted the job teaching at Berkeley, and I, of course, was to turn 25 a month or so after I got to Berkeley, but I was very privileged to work as an orchestrator with Quincy Jones. And so I swore that I would continue to keep the orchestral dynamic of what we were doing in contemporary music, contemporary commercial music, as well as those film scores. When I met Reverend James Cleveland, it was on the basis of us presenting some of the music, some of the early music of the Florida Mass Choir with an orchestra. We, along with for many of you who remember God Is from that particular album with Reverend Cleveland, they did that record with the Los Angeles Philharmonic. And of course, it was not the first time. We know the beauty of the work of Mahalia Jackson and so many others. John Williams, of whom we know for the Boston Pops, and we know from Star Wars. John Williams was also Mahalia Jackson's music director when she was signed to Columbia Records. He was known then as Johnny Williams. But we had this whole dynamic of great orchestral music in support of the color of our music and the foundation of our music. So I, over the years, have been very privileged to work with some of the individuals who have global visibility. Some of them are absolutely stellar in their preparation and time. Of course, our wonderful, beautiful Miss Gladys Knight from right here in Atlanta. And we've done just multiple things. My first trip to Oslo, Norway was with her back some 20 plus years ago, more 20 years ago, and we worked with the Oslo Symphony. And so this last piece allows me to kind of capture that. I have a tendency sometimes when I add instruments to vocals, I'll do a medley, especially if we're doing a tribute. And this piece is literally called Ain't No Stopping Us Now as a medley, but I did it so that we could share with a message of love and hope. This was our last public performance outside of Wiley College in 2020 before COVID-19 hit. And we shared the stage with Howard Hewitt as well as Hill Harper, and what was then considered Eastman Chemical's first, we're talking about 2020, their first ever program on diversity and inclusion. Needless to say, they came very shy of just saying Black history. And so, Eastman Chemical as well as Eastman Kodak Company. And I was tasked with basically organizing the music. And I would like to share this. This is a medley of Earth, Wind, and Fire's Keep Your Head to the Sky. Of course, McFadden and Whitehead, Ain't No Stopping Us Now. And just a snippet of the Whispers. I've done something with the Whispers previously, probably maybe on 4 or 5 different occasions, but we slipped in as a love thing in the middle of that. And I think that you'll enjoy this. Hopefully, it won't break up too bad. So can I just ask, how's the volume on that?
Volume is good. It's a little breaky, but it's not too bad. We can pretty much hear it.
Okay, I'm gonna turn it down. Does it seem like it's too loud or too soft?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Every time you try to make it, they only do suicide. They really don't have nowhere to go. Every time you ask them, they don't know. So we won't let nothing hold us back. Ourselves together, gonna wanna set our hands. And if you ever been ever down before, I know that you refuse to be held out anymore. Everyone I say,
All right, and there you have it.
I just wanted to say, when you went to that genre, I sit here and made a list, and there are pros and cons, and there are people who advocate for what I call crossover music.
Mhm.
Those songs that have positive messages that could be used in the church to drive home a certain message, but because Jesus, God, or Christ ain't mentioned, they won't use them. Like Lean on Me, Reach Out and Touch Somebody's Hand,
Uh-huh.
Family Reunion, The Greatest Love of All. I Did It My Way, which is one of my favorites. I like to sing, even though when I say my way, God's way is my way.
Yeah, I
It
did
has
it.
become, but it hasn't always been my way.
Yeah,
But when I
did it.
sing that song, I can take, and then We Are the World.
Yeah.
All of these have positive messages, that could really drive home a particular sermon in the church somewhere over the rainbow. And when I do my recital on Friday, I will be going back to that genre because I can't sing the high classics like I used to. So, but that's what that reminded me of is the fact that we need to, especially when it comes to our young people, that we need to embrace somehow songs that don't have a direct Christian message, but yet it carries a Christian theme.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's, I appreciated you doing that. Yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Anyone else? Go ahead.
Just want to say thanks to all of you. It's been my mission as a pastor's kid to try and find ways to connect those dots. When Jesus, I'm oftentimes reminded when Jesus taught.
Right.
Jesus, you only hear 1 or 2 times where Jesus was actually in the church teaching. Most of the stuff was on the street. And
That's right.
I've done street ministry, and I know that's a whole different, ball of wax. Have done missions work both here in the United States as well as overseas. And so I'm committed to finding as many ways to share the message of Christ through love and through commitment and through example. It's possible.
Yes, indeed. Anyone have any questions or comments for Dr. Mcpherson?
Yes.
Yes, I
Sounds
do.
like,
I'll go after.
yeah, Dr. McPherson, sounds like your choir has a good sound there. And
Mhm.
I'm sure, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yeah, it sounds like you've developed a good sound with that choir, restarting it. That's really, good. It takes a lot of work.
Well, thank you. God has always given us a way to prepare. And what I share with everyone, if you surrender yourself, Ray Charles used to tell us all the time, and you've heard Quincy Jones and others quote this, that every music has a soul, especially that comes from within us. And if you surrender yourself to it, it would provide opportunities for us to be able to not only just interpret what is there, but to also be in a place where we can make certain that God's message of promise and hope and love can come through that. So, and I tie that to the commitment of trying to begin to develop the sound. I have told her all I need is about 2 more years. and we can get all of that twangy wangy, all of that stuff out of the voices. I don't
Yeah.
know if that's how to call it, but because I
Well,
have a
that's
lot
good.
I have a lot of kids who have never had any kind of vocal training at all. They just sing in the church choir or the high school choir, and lots of those who sing the high school choral programs don't get a lot of foundation in terms of pedagogy as far as the sound of the voice and, you know, the critical nature of what being able to shape color is out of your voice, let alone interpret the music. So thank you for saying so.
And just briefly, I hope that you'll have time to come to our composers roundtable on Friday from 12 to 2.
Yes, I have it on
Kind
my
of address
schedule.
some of the issues you brought up.
Yeah.
And
We'd be
people
glad to
like,
have-
I was going to say, people like Dr. Mcpherson need to be in a bunch of workshops because, you know, there are just so many things that your expertise cut across. And so just come when you can, however you can, because you can always, because you know we're having a core directors roundtable tomorrow morning.
Yes.
And that's going to be dealing with some spirituality issues and decorum and administration and, you know, drama and dance and how much can we mix in without compromising the authenticity or the clarity of the faith. And so that, you know, that's we've been dealing with that dichotomy between spirituality and the world.
And
In
it's
all
rough.
of our sessions. Yeah, and it's rough. It's
rough.
truly rough. So we're going to be dealing with that tomorrow. Eddie Robinson, I'm not sure he'll make the morning session, but he will probably be in the afternoon, but I know Lisa Clayton will be there. And we welcome any input. It's going to be kind of an open discussion. I have some groundwork. In fact, I was working on my PowerPoint while we were doing everything here today. And we're just going to lay out some things and have people sort of weigh in on those. And then in the afternoon, you can get ready for this. I'm going to put up a listing of liturgical days and silver days.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you to input because a lot of times we don't do appropriate music for the liturgical season that we're in. So I'll have some songs, but I'm going to put it up and we're going to have some interactive kind of things going on in the afternoon with filling up that list, you know, even 4th of July and Memorial Day, because a lot of ministers integrate the civil days with the liturgical days. Liturgical days being, for those of who are not theologians, Easter, Thanksgiving is civil, but anything that encapsulates the life and ministry of Jesus the Christ and anybody in the Bible. So so I'll integrate that liturgical calendar with the civil calendar. And we're going to wreck our brains. So you may have heard of some unique music that we're not aware of. And we may even just do a YouTube search to see if we can hear some things, you know, during that session. So I'll have some things pulled up that I want to share. And then anyone else who has something. So if you think about that, if you know the liturgical calendar, you think, well, this is a song that people don't use very often. It might be, well, that kind of thing we want to do tomorrow afternoon.
Yes.
Okay, so in the composer forum will be 12 to 2. So we'll start with now. Bishop Lewis is supposed to do the devotional tomorrow, but if he doesn't come, I will be dealing with call stories, meaning that if you want to come in and share, if you are a minister or you feel like God hit you over the head to make you do what you're doing, you would come in and share your call story, because I will be sharing mine, which was very involved. And so if he doesn't show up tomorrow, we're going to be doing, you know, call story narratives at 9 in the morning. And so anybody else have any comments, questions, announcements, celebrations, prayer requests?
Yes, I wanted to say hello to Dr. Mcpherson. I don't have my video on because I'm preparing for bed, but my name is Dr. Babette Reed Harrell, and I had the privilege to work with Stephen Hayes and Dr. Clayton. I was assistant professor at Wyle from 2005 until 2008.
Oh, wow.
And my professor, Dr. Joyce Johnson, told me about the position that was available at Wyle. And that's why I moved from Cleveland No, I was living in South Bend, Indiana then. Then I
Yeah.
moved to Marshall, Texas. But now I'm back here in Cleveland again. Everything was fine. It was just my father got ill. I didn't know that's why I was going home to help my mother a little bit. But I hope that maybe you could do some type of reunion. So all the people who are associated with Wiley College Acapella Choir maybe could come. I would love to visit the campus again. And so I just thought I'd throw that out as something.
Most certainly, and we're focusing on a reunion just as a tip for the fall, for the homecoming season this particular time around.
Okay.
And for our Founders Day, of course, in March of next year. But if you can share your information with me, Reverend Dr. Rivers can share my information with you. You just that would be great. All right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I'll put it in the chat real fast right now.
Okay.
And Dr. Mcpherson is the only one that can insist on me being a doctor. Thank you, Doc, for the affirmation. Okay. God is good. Reverend Clemens, would you mind praying us out tonight, please?
Okay, just want to make sure that can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, let us pray. Gracious and merciful God, creator of all good and perfect gifts, we thank you for this time that we have come together. And we thank you for the blending of our hearts and our spirits. We thank you for the gift of music. And we thank you for the gift of a word that you have given to us. And we also thank you for the uniqueness that you have rested upon us as African Americans, as Black people, and bringing to the world a nuanced expression of all that you have done through your creativity. We ask now that as we continue through this night, that you would attend to us and watch over us as promised in your word. And for every care and every quiet petition of our hearts, that you would attend according to your word, wherein you have promised and it is stated that the Holy Spirit is in your presence now, making intercessions on our behalf. We also pray that you would instill within us, even as we go beyond this conference, our desire to strengthen the prophetic roles that we've been called to do in the area of music and, yes, music ministry and all of the different vocations that it may manifest. And so, oh God, I close now with a prayer asking that the words of our mouths throughout this day and the meditations of our heart in all that we have done be acceptable in your sight on this evening, now and in always. In the name of the one who is most gracious, most kind, and most loving, and most giving, we pray, Christ our Lord. Amen.
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 All right. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody. I
Hope to
appreciate
see
it.
you in the morning.
Bless you now.
Okay.
Dr. Rivers, I put in my email address and my phone number. This is Babette Harrell.
Okay, Babette, let me see. Let me copy it down real quickly.
Okay.
And now you want Dr. McPherson's information, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I put my phone number first and then I put my email address in a separate chat.
Okay, let me see. I see the email address.
Yes.
And
So
I have to scale up for the other. Okay.
I'm sorry about that. I said, oh, let me put my email.
Okay.
But I had a time trying to find this. Anybody else have a hard time logging on? Or is it just me?
Yes, we are having a hard time logging on.
With the tickets?
Yes.
So then
did you register through Eventbrite?
Yes. I went to the site, Tawa, and then there's Eventbrite, and I registered. I registered for about 10 events. And yesterday I had a time getting on. I didn't tell anybody, but I was like, oh my goodness.
Okay, so
finally,
it's not only happening for people who we sent free tickets to, it's also happening for people who are coming through Eventbrite.
Did you get an email back from Eventbrite acknowledging and confirming your registration and giving you a link to get on to the things you signed up for?
Well, okay, to answer your question, yes, I did get an email from Eventbrite, and then I did get a link, but it was like this morning at 8:39 when I went to get in for the devotion. But so what I'm saying is it didn't say like tonight, Wiley. There was nothing specific. And so then I said, well, let me just click on this Zoom. And sure enough, it opened up. But I thought I was going to get one that would be more specific. Like, okay, Wiley tribute. But it wasn't. It was just a very general. So it made me concerned for the events that I did pay for. Will I have trouble? Will I get an email that's specific to it, or just go back to that same one I got this morning and maybe I'll get to the event? I don't know.
I signed up for everything. And what I do each morning is I click on that Eventbrite response to me. And I'm sorry. And the link that they sent me.
Yes.
And I click on that, and then it will ask join meeting.
Okay. Yes.
And you might get a message that the host will let you in soon.
Well, we took that off. Yeah, I think we took the waiting room option off, so everybody just comes right into the meeting now.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I normally come in pretty early, Reverend Williams. I did it again. Reverend Rivers.
Okay.
So even before you've opened up, you know what an early bird I am. So
yes, I do.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, everybody.
Oh yeah, I see your phone number now.
Yes.
Okay. And we're going to add you to our mailing list.
Oh, that would be great.
And you all keep this venture in prayer. This is our first year, but we are a work in progress.
Yes.
And so it will get better as we go along if you all hang in here with us. Okay.
Oh, it's worthwhile. Thank you so much.
All righty.
Okay, good night.
Good night.
I enjoyed it, Auntie.
All right, Portia. She is sleeping, boy. We need to get. I can take her off. Portia's you went to sleep on us, Sister Portia.
no,
Have a good night. She's gonna sleep well.
Okay. All right. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. We're done, Portia. Okay. All righty. So now tomorrow I have a lot of work to do because I am involved in the morning and the afternoon session. And God has put so many ideas in my head. I'm going, Lord, will I ever get all this organized? And then he told me to open that evening session up just in case, because I know Eddie Robinson's going to be there. But develop that list and let people input it, I think that'll be more interactive. We'll have more of an interactive session tomorrow afternoon. Yeah. You're muted, baby.
Well, you got a lot to prepare for, so let's just say our vow, and we've already had
prayer,
our closing prayer. Okay.
Yeah. Neither time, distance, money, illness, family, nor the world will separate us.
Because you are in
my heart, and I am you. Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right.